Yeah, at some point I'm gonna get a proper channel trailer if I ever get enough subscribes and enough people checking out my videos. I'll get a proper opener for my channel, and then I'll get a sort of like, I don't know, 5 second opening, maybe even like 4 second opening to use for all my videos, and then make like custom thumbnails for my videos too. But until that happens, I do appreciate everyone who does watch my videos. I try to go through my mindset and try to talk at a competitive level, even if some of the decks we're brewing aren't going to be able to be played at like an AGP. Well, you can play them, but I I made it pretty clear in a lot of my Facebook posts that um, in the current format, if you're going to go to an AGP, you play Alice's World. You learn how to play Alice's World well, not like Alice's World. You don't play those lists that people are posting on the US page saying, "Oh, it beats Alice's World." No, those Alice's World players aren't good. Um, but any of the videos I have that feature an Alice's World player has usually been either Brian Liu or David Hartley. You know, someone who is top 8'd in AGP or top 16'd in AGP with Alice's World and actually knows how to play it well. If you really want to know how Alice's World is played, you can watch those videos and see why in the decks I make, even though they can put up somewhat of a game against Alice's World, usually can't win simply because high level Alice's World play is just incredibly resilient to any strategy throw at it. But let's go back to the Gill Lapis 5 color list. This is what I settled on at the end of my previous video. And one thing I kind of don't like is the fact that we don't really have a way to trigger Lancelot. So suppose suppose our game plan is to curve out with red, put on pressure. Well, I mean that is the game plan. Curve out with red, put on pressure, and then judgment into Gill Lapis, and then threaten the God's Art, and secure a really strong position from that point. Well, that's not going to happen against an enemy red deck if they have ways to just trigger Lancelot and we don't. So, what are ways we can trigger Lancelot? Well, we are playing black, we can put necromancies in. But necromancy is a little awkward, I would say. And I think it's awkward because necromancy by itself doesn't trigger lands. You need two of them. So, another thing is we can't run Little Red the Pure Stone. So we can't just like pump lands and just be like, yeah. Um, we could run Hector, and Hector's not bad. It's Hector something that we can hit on Perceval. If we run Hector, we can increase the Perceval count to 4, and then run like 2 Hector. But then we have to make cuts somewhere else. And Athena might get cut. I honestly don't like Athena. If we have ways to trigger Lancelot, then the only time Athena is going to be good against us is if it's not on curve. So if they play on turn 4. And even then we have stuff like Space-Time Collapse to deal with it. We also have Arthur Pendragon that's going to force Athena to swing into it. So let's take the idea. Let's suppose that we do need to trigger Lancelot. Well, to trigger it reliably, you only need like 2 triggers to be honest. Like that, my Sylvia list, which I'll go ahead and show really quick. My Sylvia list, you ran Rapid Growth to trigger Lancelot, and Rapid Growth could also be used to pump Sylvia later on. Oh yeah, if you don't know how to get to this, just go to z6.com and then click Force of Will, and it's listed as Sylvia Gill Pallarilius. But the idea is that Rapid Growth can target J Resonators, so it can target Sylvia if you don't have a Lancelot later on. But usually what would happen is you get like 2 Lancelot triggers, and that's literally all you need the whole game. If you blew up 2 things with Lancelot and swung for 10, you're set. You don't need to trigger Lancelot like any more times in most cases. At least that was my experience. Unfortunately, we can't do that in this deck. And it's awkward because you either run a lot of Hectors and hope to see them, but if you run Hector, you run the risk of just having Hectors and not Lancelots, and that's not very good. And so if we were to run Hector, we'd probably run like one of them. And it's huge. Like if we're a red deck and we can't trigger Lancelot, and they're a red deck and they can, there's a lot of card disadvantage for us going on. And it almost makes me want to run Rapid Growth. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say, not Rapid Growth, Rapid Decay. I'm just gonna go ahead and say we don't want the Athena in this deck. Sure, you can search her later off Rukh Egg, but in most cases you're probably gonna search Susanowo or Little Dread later anyway. So maybe we can run one Hector. But it still kind of irks me because it's kind of like, well, we can't trigger our Lancelot. What are our options? Maybe we can increase the number of things that can swing into Lancelot. So Flame King Shout is pretty good because it can clear a lot of things like Rukh Egg, potential blockers, so it can take out their Guinevere. It can clear potential blockers so that if we really need to get rid of their Lancelot, we can. And by that argument, it's better to have the Athena back in the deck because she's a 3-drop. We can put it in play with Flame King Shout. There's also the argument of running a singleton Gareth. You can hit him off Perceval. Gareth will beat past Bales, but then if you think about it, we don't need to worry about Bales because we're playing Gill Lapis. So maybe Gareth doesn't do enough because if we had to play Gareth individually, it's just an 8/8. So maybe we're going a little full circle here. Maybe we want the Athena back because one of Hector is actually not terrible. Adam Reiser's a fan of a one of Hector, or at least he was. I don't know if he is this format, but in I think SKL format, no, even TTW format, he liked a one of Hector. And in my limited experience of playing with the one of Hector, I liked it too, just having one. So going back to the overall problem here, say we're playing against an enemy red deck that can trigger Lancelot really easily. We need to be able to beat that somehow. Flame King Shout is decent, but let me think. I mean, the best is obviously to shoot with our own Lancelot, right? So let's say they have 2 Lancelots in play. Let's say they go turn 2. We're on the draw. Let's say they go turn 2 Lancelot, with like Rapid Growth. Say we're playing against Sylvia, and we lose our dude, and then they turn 3 Lancelot, like with Rapid Growth, blow up another dude, and then play another Lancelot. Well, we're under a lot of pressure here. We need to get those Lancelots off the field. Flame King Shout isn't going to get 2 Lancelots off the field unless we can. We literally have to activate our own Lancelot in order to solve that problem. So maybe we can run a one of Hector. Hector's not... Okay, so if we run a one of Hector, we can discard to Guinevere if it's dead. We could buy it back with Pitch Black Moon later if we really want to trigger Lancelot. And that's better than sinking a ton of mana into Lancelot, because then you only have to pay 2. You pay 1 to buy back with Pitch Black Moon, you pay 1 Moon, and then you pay 1 to play Hector. And I think I like that better than Athena, because if you think about it, Athena's a little awkward in this deck. Granted, Athena's better to put into play with Flame King Shout, and it's better to have more 3-drops to put into play with Flame King Shout, but I think with 4 Pricia and 2 Little Dread, we've got the 3-drop slot kind of clogged up already. And like going back to what I'm about to say, or what I was saying, if the game plan is to Judgment Gill Lapis and God's Art in the later game anyway, then Athena doesn't really fit with that plan other than just being a win more card. Kind of like, oh, you ready Judgment with Gill Lapis, you ready God's Art, it took like their best Resonator. Like, sure, you can follow up with Athena, but in that sort of position, you're probably winning anyway, so Athena doesn't really... It doesn't fix the issues where I was describing previously, where you want to be able to trigger Lancelot sometimes. So I think with this super long discussion about why we need 1 Hector, I think that's good enough justification for me to say, okay, we should run 1 Hector. I didn't want to just throw in a Hector and be like, hey guys, I cut the Athena and I'm throwing in a Hector because I want to trigger Lancelot more. No, I feel like that needed more elaboration, and I hope what I described was good enough. Uh, as far as like the overall game plan of the deck, ways to interact with Pitch Black Moon, whereas buying back an Athena with Pitch Black Moon can be decent as well. But I feel like doing that is is a little win more. Maybe not a little win more, but like Athena, I just don't like Athena to be honest. Um, I mean, really, you want like evasion or something. You want something more impactful than a 7/7 that could get pumped up bigger. So that's my long spiel about that. Let's see if there's any games we can join. Let's go ahead and make one then. And it may seem like I overanalyzed it a little bit. I gave a lot of reasoning as to why we just swap out Athena for Hector. Whereas, normally if I just said, hey, we're gonna swap out Athena for Hector, you're just like, okay, cool, yeah, we can try that. No, but I feel like in most cases you do want an explanation, or you should be able to explain why you made a decision. Sometimes maybe you're not the most uh, descriptive type of person. Sometimes maybe it's just like a gut feeling or like a intrinsic feeling as a player, and you can't really explain it, but you feel like it might be correct. And sometimes that happens. There are players who are really good at the game, but not very good at explaining things. But I try to explain the best I can. I think that's a good explanation. So looking at the deck still, I'm kind of sold on a lot of this here. Um, some of the numbers might be a little iffy. Like I don't know if I want 3 or 4 Gwyn. But if I go to 4 Gwyn, I don't know what to cut. I still think I need 8 Regalia. I think I have the best Regalia for the deck. Like I can't think of another Regalia that I really want. I'm not sure about the Globe. I almost want to go down 2 Globe. Like sure, I understand if you Judgment Gill Lapis, like the Globe helps you to God's Art as well as Judgment, and Globe can be used to activate the cancel activated ability. But again, like my last video, the Globe sucked, right? Like a lot of times, especially early game, if I drew a globe, I was just like, well, I don't want this globe now. It's not like I'm gonna Judgment on 3 stones, um, and then just like counter one thing. Uh, I felt like I feel like that wasn't a good spot to be. I like to Judgment after I know I can play everything. So usually it's after like 5 stones, because I want to be able to activate Little Dread's Awakening. Sometimes if I'm like just got like the strongest start imaginable, maybe I'll Judgment on 4, and then threaten to God's Art like really early. And I think that's one of the deck's stronger plays that it can do. But I want to be able to play like an Arthur Pendragon, right? And maybe it's possible I want to go down to 1 Arthur. Maybe 2 Arthurs is just too much. Um, Maybe we want to do 1 Arthur, 1 Lucifer. This way we have some sort of life gain against like an enemy red deck. That might be a thing. I don't know. I I don't know if 2 Arthur feels heavy or not, and that's something I want to discover just through testing. The deck may be kind of wonky. It's just kind of like, okay, if we run a 1 of Lucifer, well, Lucifer is not something we can search for, like, ever, unless we also ran a Celestial Wing Seraph, and that's a possibility. If we want to really just bank on the high end, I feel like Arthur's the best for banking on the high end, but it's possible that Celestial Wing Seraph and a Lucifer are just better. Granted, you can't hit them off Perceval, so maybe not. We don't really have a good way to search for them or really get them. But that specific interaction will get you uh, a non-target removal in Lucifer and life gain in both Lucifer and Celestial Wing Seraph with 19 power on board. And I mean that's good because compared to Arthur, Arthur makes it so they can't aggro you out, but they can still burn you out. Is kind of the problem, especially because this is a deck that is going to be susceptible to split heaven and earth. So I am kind of wondering because I did play against Sylvia yesterday, and he played Sylvia just awful, like just terribly. But I got within burn range, right? Like if he had split heaven and earth, which I figured he didn't because he was running like at least 3 colors, um, pretty heavily. if he actually was a two-color split heaven and earth deck, I would have been a little scared, and I would have had to consider like, can I really call stone here? So it makes me do want to go down to like one Arthur and then run like one Celestial Wing Seraph and one Lucifer. But Celestial Wing Seraph is a bit win more in the times that I tried to test. Because Lucifer, like in my Seer the Blue Moon list, I felt that it was better just to play Lucifer, and Lucifer fits more on color in this deck. Suppose we call like all four Scorched Bales early on, which is going to happen in some non-zero number of games. Lucifer is something you can cast, and then when you do call your Fifth Stone, you can hope that it's a Moonshade and activate the life gain. Uh, or you can play Demonic Globe of the Earth and activate Lucifer's life gain ability from that. So Lucifer actually synergizes a bit better than Arthur here, but Arthur's something you can hit off Perceval. So give this an additional Perceval hit, and Arthur is also better against a lot of strategies because it's just hard to remove. But I think, just kind of talking out loud and thinking through this, I do want that option. I think a one of Lucifer is not terrible, even though we can't search it off of like Rukh Egg like we can the Susanowo. I think a one of Lucifer would be fine. It would provide an out to an Arthur Pendragon that the opponent plays. I mean, we have ways to just like get stuff off their board with target attack. Granted, if they have an Arthur, we're probably going to have to swing into their Arthurs, so let's see. Well, we could like Space-Time Collapse kill something, and then maybe they only have an Arthur left. I don't know. I haven't played against enough situations where I've had to deal with more than just an Arthur in play, and like maybe one other Resonator, to really know. But the more I talk about this, I am thinking, why not just go down on one Arthur? Go down to one Arthur and run one Lucifer. And I almost want to go up to two Lucifer, because if we are going to run three globes, the globes are either going to be great when we see them, because we want to judgment that turn, or we have a Gill Lapis already, or they're just going to be awful. And by making them less awful, by increasing the number of Lucifer, we not only give ourselves a source of life gain, but we also make the globes a little bit better. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and go down to one Arthur, and then put a Lucifer, because you never want to see more than one Arthur anyway, right? Like if you play a second Arthur, that's a little bit one more, whereas you probably want to see an Arthur and then a Lucifer as opposed to two Arthurs, because Lucifer is going to start gaining you life, and Lucifer can also beat an enemy Arthur, which, like I said, is one of the problems of this deck. Like, how do we beat an enemy Arthur? So yeah, I do like that. And this may seem a little weird, but like as I'm waiting to get a match to test the deck, what I'm doing is I'm trying to think about potential situations with the deck, things that might arise, potential problems that we might have, and then how to beat those problems. So like an opposing Arthur Pendragon is one of our problems. Uh, Getting within split range is another problem, um, especially because we we'd prefer not to judgment Gill Lapis and then just like pass. We'd prefer to judgment Gill Lapis and then like God's Art, or like maybe attack with him or something that turn. Um, or potentially, if we do pass, it's because we are expecting them to do some sort of activate ability or something. Um, there's a lot of reasons why we might just judgment and not do anything, but we want to make the cards that are awful in our deck, like the Earth, a little bit better. So we need more activate abilities that cost Moon, and I think the only activate ability that costs Moon is Lucifer. Um, so I almost want to fit some more Lucifers in here, but I'm not sure what to cut yet, or if we need to make such cuts in the first place. Maybe one Lucifer is enough. Maybe, I mean, I am thinking we could go down to two Space-Time Collapse, but I don't think I don't think two Lucifer and two Space-Time Collapse is better than one Lucifer, three Space-Time Collapse, because Space-Time Collapse allows you to pick what you want to destroy, whereas Lucifer is a little bit more narrow. Like it can beat the stuff like an enemy Arthur, but we can't beat like a Guiber, right? Because usually if they're gonna Guiber, it's kind of like Cheshire Cat, something else Guiber, and if we play Lucifer, it's just like, well, I'm just gonna sack the Cheshire Cat. So we do want stuff like Space-Time Collapse. Um, we want to go a little heavier on that. But yeah, as I was saying, you know, all this time that we're here waiting for a match, I'm just gonna be thinking about the deck, talking about the deck, going through some logic in my head, and then just slowly improving the deck. And I want this to be on video because what I did with the Seer video is I didn't really go through the logic as much. I built the list beforehand, then started the video, played a match, and then made changes. But you never really saw like how the initial list came to be, or if I made changes before the video, how those changes came to be. Ooh, this isn't good. We'll have to remake the game then. I don't know why I'm having like extremely high ping on here. I'm gonna refresh, just see if it fixes my issue. I don't think I have anything that's like taking up bandwidth, so I think it's just a server issue. Because there's nothing in my... Yeah, there's actually nothing that's really taking up... I guess this is refreshing an ad like all the time, but that's not gonna cost. That's not gonna take up a bunch. Yeah, I think it's just the server being laggy. And of course there's like no Force of Will games I can join, unfortunately. I really want to get a match in. Let's see, how far are we? We're 20 minutes in the video, we still have not had a match. We made some deck changes and that's good. Had some sort of reasoning, sort of explanation, just insight into deck modifications. But there's an extent where that the sort of sitting there thinking about my deck, talking out loud, going through some potential situations, there's a point where that ends, and I can't actually keep doing that until I actually play some games and get a feel for the deck. And that's what I'm trying to do. I really want someone to just join a game, Force of Will, and we can get a better feel of how the deck plays in action. So let's go back while we're waiting. Is there anyone even here? Test. Okay. So I guess, okay, here we go. Yeah, I guess the server just kind of reset or something like that. We are Gill Lapis 5 color. I do like Gill Lapis's art though. I like this art style. Okay, so we are on the play. Okay. So we're gonna pitch the Little Dread, or we're gonna bottom the Little Dread. We're gonna keep the Lev because we are playing Rulers in Moria. So I think everything else is keepable because we can go turn 1 Guinevere, turn 2 Rukh Egg. Or actually, I would probably just do. Yeah, I think this is pretty keepable. What I would do is actually turn 1 Lev, then call Stone, and then just play the Rukh Egg. This way we can banish. Actually, no, I would still play the Guinevere, and here's why. Because we don't need to search for something on turn 2 anyway. So he passes our if we go turn 1 Rukh Egg with Laevateinn, we can search for something. But why do we need to search when we already have a Lancelot in hand? I would argue we don't need to. And it's better to have that Guinevere in play and then play the Rukh Egg on turn 2. Not turn 2, but like play the Rukh Egg later than to turn 1 Rukh Egg, turn 2 Lancelot, and then turn 3 before recover, banish the Rukh Egg, grab Pricia. That would be a pretty strong start, but it's not a safe start. It's not safe because I'd rather have the Guinevere. In a worst case scenario, if we're playing against control or like something, I'd rather have the Guinevere already in play and then have a slightly later Pricia, if that makes sense. Granted, what it does, another thing it allows us to do is it allows us to, if we decide not to play the Guinevere, then we can get the Hector and then trigger Lance on turn 3. And that might be a thing. So after just kind of going through these lines of play, I actually think the Rukh Egg play is a little bit better than the Gwyn. Because if we were on the draw, maybe the Gwyn's a little bit better. But I think since we're on the play, playing the Guinevere and just setting ourselves up, also because we know we're playing against Crimson Girl. So I think, just thinking about it, it's better to play the Rukh Egg and pass. because this way we can turn to Lancelot, leave the Rukh Egg in play, and then depending on what we see, we can either say, okay, turn 3, do we want to trigger the Lancelot? If so, we grab Hector. We banish the Rukh Egg to Laevateinn, grab Hector, trigger the Lancelot. If no, we can just grab the Pricia, target attack something anyway, and then we're still good. So if we were on the draw, maybe it'd be a little bit different. But Guinevere does feel a little awkward in this deck. I almost want to run Cathug over Guinevere. That's a potential like option. But if we do that, then our little dreads become worse. And I think you need 7 targets, banished targets below dread. And for us, it's 4 Laevateinn, 3 Guinevere. In the previous deck, it would have been, or in the other deck, the Sylvia deck, it was 4 Guinevere, 3 Laevateinn, and then 4 Percevals to hit. 4 Percevals to hit the Laevateinn when we need it. In this deck, we also have Perceval, so we can hit the Laevateinn a little bit more easily. But I like running for Laevateinn, just in general. I think Laevateinn is among the stronger regalia. But if we cut the Guineveres for thugs, we have to trim the Little Dreads, and Little Dread offers a lot of control. So I don't think we can just be like, yeah, let's cut the Guineveres and the Little Dreads for thugs just to get in more damage. Because we have to evaluate what is our deck trying to do. Like, sure, we have a base red shell. We want to put on pressure. But are we just trying to aggro them out as fast as possible? I'd argue no, we're not. We're not trying to just like beat face as fast as we can. I'd argue that instead what we're doing is maybe that's not too bad. I'd argue that instead what we're doing is we're applying pressure, but we also want to play kind of a little bit of a longer game because we want to Judgment Gill Lapis and then secure the board state that way. Okay, so here I didn't banish the Rukh Egg before recover, and here's why. If we call a stone, like we can banish the Rukh Egg whenever we want, right? And if we called the stone to hit another Scorched Bales, and we had sacked Rukh Egg before recover to grab like a Pricia, well, we wouldn't be able to cast the Pricia anyway, other than put her into play with Flame King Shout. But Flame King Shout into just like what we have here, like if I just Flame King Shout to get rid of Gretel, that seems awful just to put a Pricia into play. Because she already had swiftness anyway. So here we can grab the Hector, we can blow up the Gretel, swing for 10, and then follow up with like a Lucifer. I like this play. So what I'm gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and banish the Rukh Egg here. Let's go ahead and grab the 1 out of Hector. Because this allows us to mount a lot of pressure while also playing the Guinevere. And then we'll play the Guinevere here. And if you were to like play Sign the Future on us, then what we can do is we can 1-for-1 the Sign the Future, right? Because we can sack off one of them to Guinevere, the other one gets exiled, but then Sign the Future basically became a 1-for-1 as opposed to a 2-for-1. So I like that line. Hector himself is also a 4-4 that can swing. So that's pretty good. But yeah, I could have grabbed the Pricia there, so I'm with Lancelot, and if you were to block with the Gretel, then put Pricia into play, and then have Pricia, which is a lot of pressure. But, like I said, if he were to play Sign the Future, which I don't know if he is playing Sign the Future, He's playing white, so you have to consider he could play Sign in the future. It's much better to have the Guinevere in play than to open ourselves up to Sign. Granted, if we had done that Pricia play, we wouldn't have a Guinevere. We would have a Lancelot and a Pricia. And that's not enough to trigger Sign. But I don't know. It's hard to say because on the one hand, having a Pricia here would have been decent. Like if he would go up 10 life, he'd go to like what 34, and we'd have a Pricia in play. Um, but suppose he didn't block with Gretel and just took the lance for 6, and then we play Pricia, and then he blocks the Gretel with Pricia, or blocks the Pricia with Gretel. Sorry. Then I don't know. Maybe the resulting board state is better that way. So in hindsight, maybe I should have just not played the Gwyn here and just grabbed the Pricia, because Pricia would have mounted a lot of pressure. Or we can just be like amazing and draw a Rukh Egg. So based on what I knew, based on that line of thinking previously, it probably would have been better to not grab the Hector and grab the Pricia. But now, after having drawn extremely well, it's going to work out for us because we can grab the Pricia anyway and then Flame King Shout, clear his board. So here we're going to pump Lancelot by 1 before recover. Let's see here. We're going to call Stone. Yeah, let's go ahead and play a Rukh Egg. Banish the Rukh Egg to Laevateinn. So what do we want to get for the Flame King Shout target? Probably this, right? And then we'll see if he has a keen sense or not. But if I had to revisit that line that we just had, I probably should have just thought about it more. Because even though we were on the play, I think the resulting board state, like sure, we got in more damage the way I did it, but we're not trying to just get in as much damage as possible, I don't think. I think what we're trying to do is build up the better board state. So it would have been better to have a Pricia in play. Yeah, it would have been better to have a Pricia in play here than the Gwyn and the Hector. Let's see. Because if we were gonna Flame King Shout him anyway, then yeah, we just Flame King Shout him anyway. He's actually so close to dead, it's like not even funny. Because if we banish the Pricia, then if he was at 5, we just banish the Pricia and he's dead. So yeah, it probably would have been better to have 2 Pricias in play than the Hector Lancelot. But if I get in this situation again, then it's probably it's good to know. Because I was thinking more about like a pure aggro plan, which is my default line of thinking whenever I am playing with cards with Lancelot. But I think I can't have that mindset. I definitely can't have that mindset with this deck because I want to be winning on the board as much as possible instead of just trying to aggro him out, even though the whole point of these red cards is to put on pressure. But a lot of cards like Pricia are also good at taking out stuff on the board. Like Pricia offers decent board control because of the target attack first strike swiftness and the ability to gain flying as well as pressure. So it's better to go for the stronger board state than for more damage, even though I was on the play. Or at least that's my current line of thinking. Even though it worked out for me in the end because I drew a Rukh Egg and was able to get a Pricia anyway, I think. Okay, so he's playing Arthur. Isn't he just dead to Gill Lapis? I guess it depends. He has to leave the Cheshire Cat up to block a Gill Lapis. We can't judgment. Um, we can't judgment this turn anyway because we haven't hit the right stone. Yeah, that's basically the misplay here. I think he has to let everything go to Arthur because otherwise we just play Lucifer. And then he's dead. See, I told you the one of Lucifer. Told you the one of Lucifer is fine. Okay. I do want to get into more games, so we'll play another game. How long is this video? We're at 37 minutes. Okay, not bad. We can get in one more game. Like, I don't actually expect to play against any good players most of the time on Untap. But the point is, you don't need to play against good players to be able to evaluate your deck and make your deck better. You just need to get a feel for your deck and also be able to imagine potential situations and how you'd handle them. So once I feel comfortable with like the deck and it doesn't feel clunky, like once you get to the point where you're like, okay, I tested enough to get a feel for the deck just on my end, and I think I've fixed some of the minor issues, some of the clunkiness. That's when you can grab someone who's really good at the game and start testing against like a gauntlet and actually getting real testing and determining how the deck feels and then making more changes that way. Right now, I'd say the deck does, for the most part, the deck feels fine. Um, I don't think the deck is particularly clunky in any area. The Hector that game was decent, but I definitely wanted to just grab a Pricia instead. But I think in that situation, suppose like let's go back to the reason why we have a Hector to begin with. The Hector was a bit of a trap for me personally because I thought about grabbing the Hector, whereas if I didn't have a Hector, I definitely like would have grabbed the Pricia for sure. But that's more of a user error, like a gameplay, a, a piloting error, as opposed to like deck building problem. Because if we go back to why we put the Hector in the first place, that is to trigger our Lancelot in like the aggro mirror. I think that's still solid. That's still a valid reason. We have cards like Perceval to protect our Lancelot. So against an enemy Lancelot that's trying to blow up our Lancelot, we can protect it with Perceval. We can banish Perceval to prevent the damage. Perceval can grab the Hector. So even though we went down on a number of Perceval hits because we went down on Arthur, we made up for it by adding a Hector and cutting the Athena, which is only searchable off Rukh Egg. And so we have more ways to we have a way to trigger our own Lancelot, and I feel like that sort of power is necessary. It's important. Um, so someone else made a game. I'm just gonna join his, I guess, because I do want to get this game in. I don't want this video to last too long. I like to keep most of my videos under an hour if possible, but just be really rich in content. So we're on the draw, that's good, because most of the testing videos we've been on the play, I think. We're gonna pitch all of these probably in this order, put the little dreads on the bottom. Yeah, we have to pitch all of them because we need to have a regalia in opening hand. So this is just what we're gonna open up with. I like having 4 laves for this reason. What happens if you see like a Rukh Egg or something? You need a way to banish it off, right? Okay, so this is not. This will be an interesting match for sure, because we're probably going to deal with an Alice at some point. So turn 1 Elvish Priest. Go ahead and play this. Call our Stone. And then I like playing the Rukh Egg here, actually. And I like playing the Rukh Egg. I like playing the Rukh Egg so we can banish it next turn and grab like a Lancelot. He's probably playing like some sort of Alice's World Shell. Okay. But the other thing is we don't know what we're playing against, so we're not like in a rush to yeah, we're not necessarily in a rush. I would have tapped Elvish Priest. And the reason why is because then you can float 1 mana and you actually net mana. Oh. Okay. Alright guys. I've seen this deck before. King in yellow. It's an avatar heavy deck. So the main thing is like he's trying to build up a bunch of he's trying to boost up avatars. Yeah. So I think for here we don't need to really worry too much about pressuring him, because we don't want to trigger the Alice for 1, and 2, we don't want to make these things bigger necessarily. If he attacks with the king in yellow, we can just block with the Rukh Egg and grab like a 3-drop anyway. So yeah, so there's that. We can also, I probably wouldn't block it because I'd probably want to sack off the Rukh Egg to Guinevere next turn for that search and then draw. Main board, Barrier of Shadows. That's interesting. He's not really accomplishing a lot so far. Granted, he doesn't have to. We don't really have a good way to take out additions, so I may need to run like some way. Okay. So he's just gonna Law of Silence me for like no apparent reason, which I'm okay with. In that case, what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna grab. I'll probably just grab the little dread anyway, just to play for the longer game. And then we'll discard. A lot of these cards are just good. The Earth is not gonna be good since he has the barrier, and we don't really have a good way to get rid of it. So we're just gonna do that. Call Stone. And I actually am okay with passing here, because he played a Law of Silence, but the main problem with that is that if you're going to play Law of Silence, you need to have a great follow-up. So I don't know what he's going to do this turn. That's going to be amazing. But I doubt it's going to be like so amazing that me not playing anything that turn is going to like lose me the game. We'll see. So he's got two king in yellow, and they're both just like, what, 4/4s? Okay. He's going to play like another one. World Tree, the Protector. So his entire hand is... So he's got like a bunch of just 4/4s in play. I guess that's decent. I mean, I'm not too worried about it. His Elvish Priest hasn't really done anything, so I'm not sure he's really accomplishing with it. I could sack off the Guinevere. And then, yeah, I could sack off the Guinevere to dig to see if there's a better target for Flame King Shout. And I think I'm going to do that because I don't want to put Hector into play, and I don't want to put Little Dread into play because I want to save them for the Awakenings. So I'm going to go ahead and sack that off, draw 2. That's really unfortunate because none of these are actually good hits here, so... Hector is the least impactful in my hand, actually. That doesn't go to bottom. Yeah, that goes to discard. Okay. Play, and I don't want to cast the Flame King Shout yet. I want to see what we hit off of Perceval here. Let's see, draw to play 5. Get a Lancelot, which is pretty good. Rest we'll put on bottom, or these don't go there. These go on bottom, so bottom. We'll put the Pitch Black Moon on bottom last. We'll see if he has a Wall of Wind here. He probably does, because a lot of these players like to play Wall of Wind. At least if he's going to play green, he's probably going to play Wall of Wind. Yeah, so he's going to search his deck for basically 3 cards, right? King in yellow. He's going to get 2 king in yellow, and then 1 of another avatar. So you can get the other 2 king in yellow. And then you can get like 1 World Tree Protector. Yeah. Swing here. Get our initial damage in. And then next turn, what we can do is we can Little Dread to steal something. Unfortunately, he's got the barrier, so we're probably just going to kill it with Space-Time Collapse. I think that's what we'll do. We'll just kill it with Space-Time Collapse. There's also the option to Judgment. Judgment's going to cost 4, and God's Eye's going to cost 5. So that barrier does really hurt us. But that's where our base red really helps, because we're not just trying to like bank solely on Gill Lapis. Sure. He's killed our Lancelot. Yeah. It's what, 10-10? I think it's a 10-10, right? Because he's got 3 in the grave? Yeah. Like, I'm not in a rush to trigger that tree, so... And then we can play another Perceval here. See what we hit. We are going to hit a Lancelot, so put these on bottom. This order, put the Deathscythe on bottom last because it's not very good. I think I'm going to cast Lancelot here instead of the Guinevere. The reason why is because we're going to have 6 mana anyway, so we can pay for the barrier to sack to Laevateinn. He's not running white, so I doubt he's going to play Sign the Future on me. I don't know why he's running a horn. Realistically, he has to play horn in his main phase, so he's probably just shortcutting here. Just gonna play another king in yellow. Yeah, this deck just wants to make really big avatars. That's basically what this deck does. Yeah, so there's the World Tree Protector here. So where the little dreads come in handy. This is this graveyard. So my graveyard has 0, so it's probably not gonna matter. He has no more king in yellow to really search for, so we can go ahead and swing here. If he just wants to take the 4, then I'm going to pay 1 and bash it to Laevateinn. And I think I can just pass here. Our Judgment's going to cost 5. We can pay for Judgment and then threaten the Gods Art the next turn. And that might be the thing we want to do. But this way what we do is we prevent him from getting another specific World Tree Protector, because it says when this card is put into a graveyard from your field, search your deck. And so what it says here is it says your field, so it actually counts whose field it comes from. Since it came from my field, okay. The Avatar of the Seven Lands is not a huge deal to me. We have another little dread in hand, so it's gonna be something we can just steal. But hopefully, like, okay, so in the community, no one seems to believe me when I say a Little Dread's a good card. Like, when you look at Sylvia builds, no one likes Little Dread, except for, like, maybe my article. And I feel like, what happened, at least what definitely happened, is a lot of people, I guess, just took my Sylvia list, didn't try it the way it was. Okay, so he wants to be able to cycle. Um, No, I definitely forgot there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 in Grave, so that's 6 right there. What are the other 2 he had in Grave? 1 Elvish Priest, 3 King and Yellow, 2 Ultra Protector. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we can actually reconstruct this state pretty well. He put a total of what? 8 in there? Okay, so yeah. Geez, I completely lost what I was thinking about previously. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna clone it this way I can actually use it. And then we'll swing here. We're basically gonna swing with like as much as we can. Um, but yeah, okay. Going back to what I said, no, nobody believes me. Like, no one took my Sylvia list and played it as is. They looked at it, or I don't think anyone did. They seem to have, like, taken it and was just like, I don't like Little Dread. Like, I don't think Little Dread's a good card, and then they just trimmed all the Little Dreads and put in Thugs. Whereas, like, if you actually watch any of my videos, like, Little Dread is incredible. Um, just in what it can do. Let's see. Main thing is I don't want to trigger the Alice until I'm ready. So we're just gonna leave him at 1. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well. Am I actually wrong about this? Why does that put it on? Okay. Let's go ahead and see here. I'm sorry guys that I'm having to argue with this guy on video. Like, it straight up says, oh my gosh. I'm really sorry about this, guys. Like, what does this mean? We'll agree to disagree. It straight up says you shuffle the horn in. Oh, this game is hard. Teaching people this game, how to play this game properly, is hard. There we go. Like, I don't know why he's trying to argue with me. It straight up says you shuffle it in if you target yourself with horn. No, but Lil Dread, guys, is a very good card. Alright, so we're on the draw again. We do have a Regalia. And I'm gonna pitch those. I think a turn 1 Gwyn is better than, like, some other awful turn 1. Our hand is just terrible. And I wish there were more Regalia that were impactful, because I really don't want these globes in hand. Because if he just goes, like, if he goes turn 1 Barrier of Shadows, that's so awful for us. But it would also be kind of funny to just, like, turn 2 Judgment, right? I don't know. I've actually, okay, let's try it. No, for real. Like, I have not ever done this before, where you just, like, I've never done a play where you just super fast Judgment Gill Lapis, but as long as we're testing this build, that's something that's probably going to happen. Like, we're going to get these hands like this, where we have, like, 2 orbs in hand, and it's just awful. Okay, there's the Wall of Wind. Right? Like, because we have because we have 2 in hand specifically, we can just Judgment next turn and then swing for like 16, like 18. Like, that is really funny to me that it's something we can do. Familiar Holy Wind. Yo. Please don't bury your shadows. Gosh dang it. Oh. It was gonna be so fun too when we just, like, turn 2 Judgment, but it's not meant to be, I guess. Alright. Well, the Regalia aren't very good now that he has a barrier. So going back to what I said, like, we need something in our sideboard, either main or side, and I'm thinking it's probably going to be side. We're going to need something to be able to beat that barrier, because our hand is awful. It wouldn't have been awful if he didn't play the barrier, because then we just Judgment, get our Pitch Black Moon, have a 14/14 swinging in, and then we could God's Art next turn, assuming he didn't play barrier. He's going to play like King in Yellow or World Tree Protector. Probably hit us with the cat. No? He's not going to get in free damage? I mean, you don't have to, I guess. But, like, I probably would have done that. Should I cut the Hera? I'm thinking I cut the Hera. Because we already have Space-Time Collapse anyway, so we can, like, blow up most Regalia. So the Hera doesn't seem particularly good here. I'm not in a rush, so I'm just going to pass, to be honest. I think I do want to cut the Hera. Because cutting the Hera would let us run a 4th Space-Time Collapse. And I'm sorry if I, like, if it's kind of annoying for me to, like, get beat up about him disagreeing with me on a ruling. This game is kind of hard to learn at times, or rather, some of the rulings can be a little difficult. But the main thing is that it straight up said on that page that you shuffle it in, and he was disagreeing with me, and that's what, like, really bothered me. Um, sure. I actually want to just see a Flame King shout. If I can, that'd be really nice to see. Nope, we're gonna see a Perceval instead. Wonder if we can hit like an Arthur Pendragon off this. Or that's not what we do. Yeah, I think we want the Arthur here. And then we'll bottom. I'll let the Flame King shout first, followed by Pricia. And then Lancelot last, probably. I don't think we jam it next turn, because he's probably going to have Wall of Wind. We already saw one Wall of Wind, and it's better to play around Wall of Wind and just take some damage, because he's not necessarily putting on pressure, right? Like, his deck's idea, in my opinion, from what I can see, it seems like to get rid of some of his avatars. That way he can get bigger avatars. But I don't think that plan's, like, impressive by any means, so it's probably just best to be safe and play the Arthur when we know we can't get hit by Wall of Wind. Like, if he's gonna hit me for 4 turn, I think I'm okay with that. what, a 6/6, that one. So here we're just gonna call stone. So we have the mana to jam North there, but we're probably not gonna do it. Just gonna play Perceval instead. He can run Zeke's, that's for sure. What do we have? No hits? Okay. I mean, yeah, that's a little awkward. I do want to save. Um, I have enough hits in this deck with 8 Regalia and like 4 Lancelots. Um, how much do I care? I don't think I really care about anything else in my hand, like playing anything else in my hand. I don't just jam Space Time Collapse. I could probably trim the Hera for the second Lucifer. I can trim for another Space Time Collapse. I could trim for like. I'd probably do it for a 4th Space Time Collapse. I think that's best here. Because if Hera was a Space Time Collapse, then I'd be more okay with just playing one. Yep. Blade of the Seven Lands, Excalibur X. So now we actually have a decent target or a decent reason to play the Space Time Collapse because we can blow up Excalibur X. We can blow up Excalibur X pretty easily, to be honest. We can take out the World Tree Protector. And I don't really mind. Like, he's not putting any sort of pressure on me. Like, not really a clock. So, like, this damage here, it is going to add up, but it's not going to add up, like, drastically. I am going to make this block here. Because I don't want to take 6 here. If he's just hitting me for 4 a turn, that's not very impressive. Especially if he actually plays it again this turn. He could try to represent double Wall of Wind. But I highly doubt he has 2 Wall of Winds in hand. So it's really up to him. We'll see. So here we're just going to pump plants before cover. And what's going to dictate whether I attack or not is going to be whether I can resolve the Arthur Pendragon. Does he have 2? He does have 2. Okay. And this isn't even that bad. And the reason why is that he basically 2 for 1, right? Like, I'd rather have the Arthur in play, sure. But yeah, I'd rather have the Arthur in play, but it kind of like is not as big of a thing, because if he lost 2 cards to get rid of Arthur, then I'm gonna win the resource war. Granted, most of my hand is awful, but still, I feel pretty good about this. I can buy it back with Pitch Black Moon anyway. So, let's see. Activated Polyester Resonators. Okay. Well, we're gonna have to pay 5 to Judgment. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And these can't produce Moon, so we'll have to play one of these most likely. I'm not in like a huge rush to. Yeah, I'm not in a huge rush to Judgment and try to steal Alice. But it is something that I think his deck's gonna have to worry about. Because I don't know how many Alice he plays. He's playing a second Excalibur X. Okay. So he probably doesn't have a third in his deck, so if we do Judgment and try to steal something, then I think we have to, though. It's gonna force him to try to sacrifice this. How many does he have in grave? 1, 2, 3. So it's +6, so it's a 10/10. Okay. It's gonna cost 4 to Judgment, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Get ourselves our Pitch Black Moon here. I don't think there's that big of a reason not to play the second one here, in case we do need to flip back over. But we can also use it to cancel an activate ability, so that would be good. It depends on whether he plays the Alice this turn. If he does jam the Alice, we're gonna have to pay 6 for the space-time collapse. That'd be problematic for me. So I just have to hope he doesn't have the Alice already. Actually, it wouldn't be too problematic. I have 6. I think I just block the Lancelot here. Because it's a 2, 4, 6. It's like a 10/10. Yeah. One, two, three. Yeah. This one has to get a king in yellow, right? So I'm okay with blocking this one. Main thing is I don't want to block this one, because this can grab the Alice directly, whereas these can't. So he's either gotten Alice already, or he doesn't, and if he doesn't, then I can probably get it. So he has only one Alice in the deck, right? That's what it looks like. We can get an addition field. We can get addition, regalia, and a get one of these. So we can. Oh, right. We have to. Let's see. Alice, barrier. What's the regalia we want? Probably horn. Let's see. So this doesn't have summon or this doesn't have swiftness. I don't really see him as having much of a win con at this point. So what I want to do is just play a. I'll just play a Rukh Egg. And then we will attack. Attack. 14. That's actually pretty good. So he did have another Alice, which makes sense. Let's see. So we do have a dead Primo. That was okay. I admit that was pretty sloppy on my part. We don't attack with Primo there. We do have to leave up 1 mana to flip back. So instead, what we do is we just call Stone, right? Yeah, that was pretty sloppy there. Because if he runs 2 Excalibur, he probably runs 2 Alice. So, but he has no more Alices left, and that's really important to know. So I definitely misplayed there. That's something to note. Although it's probably something I should have just thought about more. Because after stealing his Alice, for some odd reason I thought I took his only Alice. And it didn't occur to me that he might have one already in hand. So I should have just called Stone. Um, but a good note in general, I guess, for me, is don't attack if you don't have a way to flip back with Primogender. But I don't think I lose this game by any means because he has no more Alice's left. So when I trigger the tree, he goes to 1, and he doesn't get anything else. He just, well, he just goes to 1. Is what, 8 plus 8? Yeah, so it's a 12/12. Should be. Um, I'll block with the Rukh Egg here. I want a Little Dread. Like, in the later game, Little Dread is definitely the best to have. Just gonna swing with the Alice. Definitely should have. Okay. Sure. Alice has died. I know what I should have done. I should have just taken that hit then. No, my blocks are backwards. So I'm just like playing badly because I'm not thinking correctly. I definitely take the hit or just block with Alice and then block with the Alice attack with Rukh Egg. That's what I should have done. So if I had a Gill Lapis, I could actually activate both sides of. I could activate both sides of the. That's awkward. Yeah, I could activate both sides of this, but since I have an Astral Ruler, I can't. So. I think what I want to do here is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Attempt to target Alice. It's going to cost 4 more total. So he has to have exactly double Wall of Wind in hand. How big are the World Tree Protectors? Do I just lose? Can he like 24? That's 8. Yeah. I'm not really worried about this deck still. I just horribly misplayed. Because I'm pretty sure I had that game. What the hell? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had that game. I just made that major misplay because then I could tap 6, destroy 1 Excalibur X and the Alice, and then still have a Primo to block. And Primo's bigger than like most of his avatars anyway. So I just made 2 major misplays. One was not calling Stone, the other one was just a bad block and losing my Alice. Just in the way I blocked. So yeah, that was bad. Um, Here, this hand is pretty dead. I don't want the Arthur Pendragon. Don't think. This is a lot better. Well, only marginally better. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and make that change now. Let's go ahead and go to 5 color, cut the Hera, and just run a 4th space-time collapse. I think I like this better. Because the Hera didn't do anything for me all game. Whereas having that additional space-time collapse would have meant I could save myself from some damage and be able to get rid of the Excalibur X when those Excalibur X a lot earlier. So call Stone here. see if we can Lancelot. So this video is already turning out to be pretty long. It's probably going to be a 2-hour video because I am playing a full match. So thank you for bearing with me, and I'm really sorry about game 2. I screwed that up pretty badly. But I am learning Primo as I go, so it's good to know. Holy Wind. Yep. Bear is really good against me. I think I'm just gonna pass here. So yeah, the one of Hector has actually been pretty good, as you can see here in this game. Main thing for us is we want to whittle him down as much as possible without triggering the tree, or without triggering tree until we're ready. We also have to be worried about a Whisper of Abyss play. So if we were to attack and he has open mana to play Whisper of the Abyss, we might accidentally trigger the tree before we're ready. And so we have to leave up Lancelot just for defense if he's able to play a Whisper on us. Again, I'm in no rush, so I think I'm okay with just like passing and building up my board. Yeah, there's really no reason for me to rush this. If we play a long game, I actually think I can win a long game anyway, as long as I don't horribly misplay. So there's argument to attacking there and triggering that king in yellow. And I probably should have done that. Yeah, I probably should have swung there. But I'm in no rush. He's probably going to attack with his king in yellow anyway. Did you draw 4? Hang on. Did you draw 3 or 4? I think you actually draw 4. So here, again, not really in a big rush. Like, the way he uses Law of Silence is actually just awful. If that's the case, I'm just gonna attack then. Attack for 14 here. And then next turn we can call Stone and then God's Art. Because, like, what this does is it means he has to have, like, an Alice in hand. And I can determine whether he has both Alices in deck or not. But we're going to be able to get one of the Excalibur X, one Alice, and something else. Probably a barrier. Like, an early judgment against Tree is actually not too bad. So, yep. So we got a couple options here. Um, I think we God's Art anyway. Because doesn't the Excalibur X um the Excalibur X gives our J ruler, it would make Gill Lapis what, 16/16 I think. So he does have all three in his deck, it seems like. Alice, Excalibur X, and it looks like a Barrier Shadows. Because if we read Excalibur X, doesn't it say your J ruler gets +4 as well? Yeah, so he actually becomes an 18/18. So Gill Lapis, far out of range far out of range for him to attack with Mephistopheles. And all three Alices are in his deck, it seems like. So our Alice is 14 or 19, and Gill Lapis is 18. Yeah. Even though he runs 2 Excalibur, 3 Alice, I don't think this is a good matchup for him. Alright, so that was a full match. I'll go ahead and say I won that one. So if you made it this far, we're almost about an hour and 45 minutes. Thank you for watching. Uh, I do like the change to running the force space-time collapse over the Hera. Hera didn't seem to do much. Little Dreads have been great. The Earth has been awkward. But I think I can go down to 2 Earth, but there's not like a good Regalia to run in place. I'm already running a Deathscythe, and for Laevateinn, I don't want to run 2 Deathscythes, even though we are running Guinevere. But it is possible that we do want to do a 2-2 split of Earth and Deathscythe. The only problem is that Deathscythe's not great in a lot of matchups either, whereas Earth would at least help us Judgment faster. So I think I'm gonna stick with this for now, and then we'll return to this list tomorrow. Thank you for watching if you have. Sorry for this video being almost an hour longer than I wanted it to, but we got a lot of work done, got a lot of good testing in, and so far I do like the deck. Um, I'd like to get fit in another Lucifer if I can. I like the one of Hector, he's pretty good. But yeah, we'll see.